Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I yield myself as much time as I may consume. In 2022, President Biden issued a new Department of Defense policy using taxpayer dollars to fund time off, lodging, and travel expenses for elective abortions. My amendment will stop this unlawful practice and return to the Hyde protections codified in law. In recent years, President Biden and many of my Democrat colleagues have embraced a radical pro-abortion stance, going so far as to push to federally legalize abortion for any reason up until the moment of birth. I'm not sure why we have gone from wanting abortions to be safe, legal, and rare to encouraging taxpayer-funded abortion on demand, but here we are. They can't define a single limitation that they would support on elective abortions. Republicans are offering solutions that support women throughout their pregnancy, and while my colleagues on the other side are taking the anti-women stance of incentivizing abortions. I urge my colleagues to support this common sense amendment to not only follow the law, enforce the law, but to do so while protecting the most vulnerable, the unborn. And, Mr. Chair, I reserve.
Gentleman from Texas reserves. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to claim the time in opposition to the amendment.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm now honored to yield 1 minute to my friend and partner in this fight, the ranking member of the House Armed Services Quality of Life Panel, Representative Houlahan.
Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Representative Sherrill. And Mr. Speaker, it truly saddens me to be here yet again having the same conversation we had last year, yet again standing before this chamber as a woman, yet again, a woman who has actually served and actually worn a uniform and actually was a mother in uniform. Here I am yet again defending our servicewomen and men's members' right to seek the medical care that they need when they're serving our country. I'm sick and tired of members who have never served telling service members, the same service members that they are proud to publicly express their purported support for, that they don't deserve the financial or otherwise freedom to seek the medical care that they and their family members deserve and need when they need it. And to those who have served in uniform, and most of them are men who are here on this floor, and still don't wish to afford the service to members the availability to seek reproductive care, I am enormously disappointed with them as well. We all know how difficult military life is. If a woman in uniform or a member of a family who is in uniform says it's not the right time perhaps to start a family or has a medical reason otherwise, it is her and her. May I have a little bit more time?
Mr. Speaker, I now yield 30 seconds to my colleague.
It is hers and her alone's decision of what to do here. That's why I introduced the March Act, which would in fact expand access to abortion service and military treatment facilities. We should be supporting our family service members, not hindering them. I strongly urge a no vote on this amendment and the overall bill if it passes, and I yield back and appreciate it.
Mr. Speaker, I reserve.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentlelady from Texas is recognized.
Very much, Mr. Speaker. The language in this bill is very straightforward. It would simply roll back Biden's illegal DoD abortion travel policy issued under the October 2022 memorandum, returning DoD to the practice in place for decades, under which both Democrats and Republican administrations have agreed. This amendment has absolutely nothing to do with preventing people from getting medical care. Abortion is not medical care for the baby. It's a brutal procedure that ends the lives of unborn children through suction, dismemberment, or chemical poisoning. The Biden administration's made taxpayer funding available for abortion at any stage of pregnancy, even for late-term abortions that inflict excruciating pain and suffering on the child. This human rights abuse should not be paid for or encouraged by the U.S. government. Abortion is also not medical care for the mother. Abortion can lead to significant physical complications for women and has serious mental health risks. A recent study found that over 60% of women who have had abortions report high levels of pressure. With that, I reserve my time.
Gentlelady reserves. The gentlelady from New Jersey is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield myself such time as I may consume. Mr. Chair, I'm vehemently opposed to this amendment. I wish I could say I'm surprised by the situation in which we find ourselves where, once again, House Republicans are trying to take rights away from servicewomen and military families. But I'm not. I'm not surprised because it's their third attempt to get this policy repealed in the last year alone. They tried in last year's NDAA, They tried via Senator Tuberville as he waged his culture war with no concern for how he was impacting military readiness and setting back the careers of many talented officers. And this year, instead of having an actual debate about the best policies regarding vital reproductive health care for servicewomen and military families, they're once again hiding behind the Rules Committee and only putting forward their standard, regressive, backwards policies that continue to fail. Preventing military women from traveling for care when they're stationed in states with draconian abortion laws isn't pro-life. It's not pro-life to force women to risk their lives and their careers with non-viable pregnancies. It's not pro-life to make it harder for women to access basic health care. And it's not pro-life to do it at the expense of women who already risk their lives in service of their country. I wish we could treat this issue with the seriousness it deserves. I wish we could have a real debate about reproductive health care for service members, but we can't. Why? Because this majority would rather score cheap points in their MAGA culture wars than have a serious discussion about their anti-women policies. So with that, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlelady reserves. The gentlelady from Texas is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You know, when we talk about wanting to be concerned with the safety of women, I would say that when we're looking at statistics, that if you look at actually far more accurate studies and complete data on pregnancy outcomes, including abortion and childcare, that study after study show that a woman is almost 4 times more likely to die from abortion than from childbirth. What we're trying to do is actually support women who are pregnant and found themselves in a difficult situation. All we are simply doing in this is going back to the law. We are enforcing the law of not having taxpayer-funded abortions. This has nothing to do with limiting health care. This is actually everything to do with following the law. And I reserve my time.
The gentlelady reserves. The gentlelady from New Jersey is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I request how much time I have left?
Gentlelady from New Jersey has 2 minutes, and the gentlelady from Texas has 2.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair. Okay. Amendments like this cheapen the National Defense Authorization Act. They make America look weak. They demean this body, and this isn't the only one. So once again, this majority has chosen not to treat matters of national security with the seriousness with which they deserve to be treated, and they're choosing to use the National Defense Authorization Act to shove their extremist culture war agenda down the throats of the American people. Homophobia? Check. Racism? Check. Misogyny? Check. Serious policy amendments that will strengthen our national security? Far less important to this majority. These ludicrous amendments are why later today I will be offering a motion to recommit, not to start the process all over, but to give our service members and our nation the serious, policy-focused National Defense Authorization Act that we passed out of the Armed Services Committee. I urge my colleagues to reject this amendment and support a clean, policy-centered National Defense Authorization Act. And I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentlelady from Texas.
Thank you very much. This is about taxpayer-funded abortion, something that has been prevented for 5 decades. In fact, the Hyde Amendment was upheld by the Supreme Court even under Roe v. Wade. This is not a change in policy. This is continuing the policies that have been supported by both Democrats and Republicans. And I would ask my kind colleagues to tell me, please, how supporting and paying out of DOD funds for a woman to travel across the country to get an abortion has anything to do with protecting our national security. Under stretched DOD resources already, to underwrite abortions through funding for flights and hotels is simply pandering to the abortion lobby and does nothing to increase our national security. And with that, I reserve my time.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentlelady from New Jersey is recognized.
Mr. Chair, I have the right to close, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlelady reserves. Gentlelady from Texas is recognized.
I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlelady from New Jersey is prepared to close.
Sir, are you prepared to close?
Gentlelady from Texas is recognized.
Thank you very much. I would argue that this was an amendment that last year passed. It was taken out by the Senate. It is necessary. All we are asking the department to do is actually follow the law, which under executive order currently Biden is trying to have them surpass. For years, this has been an adopted practice by both Democrats and Republicans. What we are seeing is extreme measures taken by Democrats to show us exactly where their abortion stance is. I was on the floor of this House last session when we voted for a bill that would allow taxpayer-funded dollars to be used for abortions up until the moment of birth. If that is not extreme, I don't know what is. Republicans are supporting support for women who find themselves in these positions. This is a defense bill. It should not be used to kill innocent lives and put women's lives at unnecessary risks, especially those that are supporting and fighting for this country and those values. With that, I yield.
The gentlelady yields back. The gentlelady from New Jersey is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, in the advent of the overturning of Roe, we have seen a race to the bottom in reproductive health care in too many states across the nation, and attempts again and again and again to implement a nationwide abortion ban by Republicans. And this is really dangerous to our servicewomen who are given orders to go to certain places. They can't say that they prefer not to serve in Texas, for example, which is now the 49th worst state in the nation when it comes to women's reproductive health care, a very fast drop because of the horrible draconian anti-choice laws that have been implemented. And so our servicewomen are ordered to states like this and don't have access to basic reproductive health care. We see again and again and again how this culture war agenda has threatened women across the country, and certainly servicewomen. We have over 140,000 service members in Texas right now, and that doesn't even include their families. That's why these are dangerous pieces of legislation. That's why we have worked so incredibly hard to find fixes to make sure our servicewomen are protected. Thank you. I urge a no vote, and with that, I yield back.
Gentlelady